Greetings, everyone. I'm Bob Lovemore, Faculty Coordinator at the Transformative Learning Foundation, TLF. I'm honored to host an Elders Wisdom Share with the Wisdom Weavers of the World, an initiative of the Global Center for Indigenous Leadership and Lifeways, GCILL. TLF and GCILL are partners in their commitment to relationships that embody the interconnectedness of people, planet, and all life. TLF and GCILL programs are dedicated to all humanity, a commitment to inner knowing, to the natural wholeness and well-being that lives in each of us, as each of us beats at the heart of both organizations. Together, we invite each of us to let out all our hearts beat together, beat as one, as we grow and emerge into ever-deepening relationships. I also extend appreciation to Milt Merculieff, whose tireless efforts have brought TLF and the Wisdom Weavers together. This is a Give What You Can event. No one has been or will be turned away for lack of funds. Please donate to support the work that make this Elders Wisdom Share possible and help us to continue to bring the message to the world. You're welcome to donate before, during, or after the event. All donations benefit both organizations. A reminder, you will receive an email with the recording of today's webinar. Please share it with folks who are not able to attend. Now, let's turn our attention to the elders. I hope you've read their bios on the TLF website or will do so in the near future. They are amazing, amazing folks. Now, here's an elder I have come to respect, to greatly respect, Ilarion Merculieff.
Thank you, Bob. Before we start, maybe Iya, you could say a prayer or a song.
I'm going to use a short prayer from the, it comes from the Indigenous grandmothers, a prayer that brings our hearts and our minds together. So let us gather our minds, our hearts, and our spirits together to connect to this one heartbeat. It's one universe that lives within all of us. And let us see ourselves not just in this automation, but see ourselves in the world connected in this way around the world from all the directions, that each one of us bring this activation of our remembered in this indigenous ways on this planet. We are called together to remember what it is that we bring as humans, as well as what it is that we need to transmute in ourselves and in the world. So again, let us come together in these directional ways from the south, from the west, from the north, from the east, and be like the eagle that we fly above and we see from that direction and we bring home into Mother Earth those things that need to be acknowledged right now in terms of the human evolution that we find ourselves in. And so it be. Ashe, Aho, Amen. Thank you.
Yeah. A very good prayer. Kilamagana kilamkasudat angwan tingunanwe unanganasaktakuya. I said, good morning. The morning tastes good. It's morning here and I said that Angwan, which means hello, my other self. And I said, I am Unangan. We don't use the word Aleut because that was given to us by our former oppressors. Unangan, it means the people by the sea. We've been in the Bering Sea for over 10,000 years and we're still there. And I said, my traditional name is Kuyak. I was given that name at 4 years old by the last Kuyak that was left alive. And it means carrier of ancient knowledge into modern times, a messenger, essentially. And I've been living the legacy of my name since that time at 4 years old, and I'm now in my 70s, so a long time, but relatively short in terms of time. The Wisdom Weavers of the World, if you're interested in them, you can go to www.wisdomweavers.world, and you can get to the website, or you can go to GCILL, Global Center for Indigenous Leadership and Lifeways, and that's www.GCILL.world. The GCILL started the Wisdom Weavers of the World. This was created in 2017. It was inviting elders from all over the world to come in one spot. We met in Kauai in 2017, and we did ceremonies in different traditions that were there, and then talked for the rest of the day for 4 days. We had only 2 questions that we were going to ask. What is the state of the world as we see it now, and what must we be doing now? And so we put part of it on film, and that you will see it in the Wisdom Weavers website that was launched by Reuters and Earth Day in 2020, translated to 15 different languages and seen by over 80,000 people the first day. So we had a good launch. And the elders that are, the elders that we work with in the Wisdom Weavers are just awesome people. And they have such wisdom. We have some of them here who have graciously agreed to contribute their time to this effort. I'd like to thank you, Ba, for giving us this opportunity, and for Milt also. And so we're going to talk about the real human being. The elders are saying that we are at a time when it's not a question about whether or not Mother Earth is going to survive. She has survived for billions of years. She's going to survive for billions more. It's a question about whether or not we humans are going to survive. And it's going to be decided by you and every one of us alive today. It's not going to be done tomorrow. It's got to be done today. And we're going to decide whether or not we stay as human beings, as a species, on Mother Earth. And you know, indigenous people, you know, it's commonly shared that 80% of the biodiversity on Mother Earth is on indigenous land. And there's a reason for that, and that is that we are given our original instructions. We didn't, these are instructions that tell us how to conduct ourselves on Mother Earth and what our rightful place is. And so we work from these original instructions that were given to us. We didn't create them over thousands of years. It was given to us because we were in the heart and present in the moment. Those were the only 2 things that we have as the answer to everything on Mother Earth. So without further ado, now maybe I can call on Mindahi. And if you, after you finish, if you can designate somebody else, that would be good. But introduce yourself and where you're from, please.
Ati wala atiku isenwa di tahiadi mashkenya isenwa tioka. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, brothers and sisters. My name is Mindahi Bastida from the Otomi Toltec peoples from Central Mexico. And we have been collaborating in this effort of the unification process of the wisdom weavers of the world. And it's an honor to be here in such a wonderful company with the elders, with the sage elders. And I just want to mention that for the beginning, we are here for a purpose. And the purpose is a collective purpose because we are one humanity. We live in the diversity, but we are one in the diversity. So just my lineage comes from my grandmother's, from my father's side, from the thunderbolt and the centella, the lightning. And they were timekeepers. So we are. And from my mother's lineage, we come from the lineage of the birds, peoples, Central Mexico in the highlands, in between the sierras of Querétaro State and Hidalgo State, the very old Otomi Toltec and Chichimec peoples. So we are so honored to be in touch with this site of the eagle, but also the site of the condor, and also the site of the phoenix and the site of the dragon. You know, the four directions. And the beautiful thing is that we also honor the sacred tree of life that interconnects the underworld with Father Sky. And it's so beautiful because it also is a reflection of the four sacred elements of life. That's why in any original nations and peoples of the world, we honor the four directions. That's why we also honor the four sacred elements of life, because we are the reflection of those elements. We are the reflection of the universe. We are the reflection of the black mirror and the mirror that we bring in this world. So that's the beauty that we are also bringing to this life. And I want to pass the word now because we want to share later on about the question. But just this is a greeting, and I want to pass the word to Puna, to grandmother Puna, Kalama. It's such an honor to be with you, grandmother. Kamadi.
Aloha, mahalo, Manaki, mahalo all of you, all these wonderful people of message, of love, appreciation, trust, and gratitude. You know, when we think about the question, and I'm going to ask that Ilarion, you repeat the question because it is very important that people understand what we're responding to. So please reiterate the question because the question comes with many parts.
Okay, Auntie Puna, thank you for being here. Yeah, the question is about the real human being and what it takes to be a real human being and why that is important. So that's the main issue because that is going to, real human beings are essential during this time now.
So mahalo for repeating the question. You see that in that request of knowledge, there are three parts. The idea of being human. And I'm going to reference my culture because that is how I understand life to be. When we say the word Hawaii, all of you have heard me say it many times. Ha is the breath that we all share. Wai is the waters of our birth mothers that we come from. And Iona Lani is that universal good or pono. So identifying that Hawaii, the breath and the waters that we come from in this universal good, the Hawaiian translation for that is man who is kind, mankind, man who is kind. It does not identify me. I'm indigenous to my land. And so being indigenous to my land, I am Kanaka. And I carry the blood of the people of that area. But it doesn't make me more Hawaiian than all of us that are here present in today's time, because we are identifying human or man that is kind. We come from that reality and that premise of truth. So if we utilize that understanding, it is in every culture, in every area of Oceania. Oceania is the whole world in this ocean of time. And every continent, place that is above the waters identifies the longitude and latitude of kuleana or responsibility. So those of us that live in Alaska, those of us that are there in Mexico, those of us, we all have an area that we are a part of, that we can show our indigenous beginnings to those places, which identifies the appreciation and understanding of not only who we are as man who is kind, but also that we are responsible and indigenous to the cultures of the area that we have been gifted with. We all breathe the same air. We all have the same oceans. We all share in the soft breezes. We all share what has been given to us in the areas that we live. And everything that we need, we can find in our own areas. The connection of man is what we have when we understand that the triangle of life, the huna or the spirituality, the hula, the visual expression of thought, and the lua, the energy that connects all three is in every single culture. When we take the time to understand who we are, we're humankind. We are people who are kind. When we can accept and understand our past, all those that we stand on the shoulders of, our ancestral history, when we can understand all the things that in their simplicity of life, they were able to maintain and prepare and care for all of us that came later. Here we are as man who is kind, that must take care of Mother Earth, must take care of Father Sky, must take care of the oceans, all the things that we've been gifted with take care in the time that we have it to ensure that it's going to be in the generations 7 ahead of us, right? Our preparation will always be for those that come after us. But understanding who we are, why we are, and all the things that we're gifted with and are in each area, the motion of emotion that we carry from time to time is always reflective. And when we can understand and be able to share in each other's challenges, as well as in each other's joy, here is mankind who is being human. This is nature's law. We were all born to nature. We were all born to the same oceans. We were all born to the same skies. We were all given a part of responsibility in our own areas. Sharing like we are now, especially in this critical mass and the unrest that is happening around our world, we all have the kuleana, or responsibility, to help to be the solution. Meaning, if we take care of the areas that we are, and we reach our hands across the earth, we create this blanket of peace. We will not be in war with one another because our hands are open to receive the discernments of our fellow humankind. When our hands are lifted up, we have the ability to take all that is challenging to all of the world, including ourselves, and turn that over and create an altar. We create that altar and we lift it up. We are always in the position to be in a place of love and light for one another. When we come from that premise of man who is kind, only kindness will be seen, only kindness will be felt. We say that we are one world, one breath, one existence. And so we must appreciate the diversity of our mankind or humankind throughout our world. If there is something that we can do in our own areas that will help one another, that is the kuleana that we hold. Not just taking care of ourselves, but being mindful of the world's family. And that is what we are. We're born to our earth, to our people, in recognition of relationship, which is nature, natural law. The plants, the animals, the fish, everything shows us, continues to show us the importance of being in relationship. The dysfunction, when I say the separation that is caused, or in Hawaiian thought, hakaka, that is caused, it creates a separation and a difference. We are in the time, according to Hawaiian prophecy and universal prophecy, we are in the time of Huliau. Huliau, to turn things back or put things back where they belong. That idea of ho'oma'e is returning things to nature, to natural law, understanding that we cannot remove the forests, especially the old growth forests. We cannot remove them. We must celebrate them and hold on to them. They breathe for us. When we take out the things that were given to us, when we remove the grace and the earth that we've been gifted with, when we use them incorrectly, we create a separation. We as humankind must recognize the values that we hold in Hawaiian thought and in all indigenous thought. The values are family, and the earth and all of the earth's gifts and the sky, that is our family. So the value of family is first. The value of resources comes second, and the value of land is third. If we continue to be human that is kind, and we take into consideration those values, our ability to help create this blanket of truth and peace around the world, there will not be wars, because there is a foundation that we are all working with that was given to us in all the areas that we live. This is what we were entrusted with. So when we think about who we are, we must remember we are man who is kind. And our premise of life and our worth here on earth and in the heavens is the same. Remembering the best of the past, caring for it now in the present to ensure that it's going to be there for the future. All the things that are happening in all the countries that are separated, the communication that is going to make a difference is all of us sending intentional love and light in that direction. That idea of picking them up, holding the challenges that are happening right now. I'm here in London, and I have met and been with people from all over the world at the Medicine Festival. And the people that have come from every part of the world, and we hear and experience the challenges. One of the brothers, a Palestinian, was in sadness. The reality is we, as a people of the world, we can continue to lift them up and make the connection to recognize that what's happening there with them, that we must intervene. And the way we intervene is by powerful thought, singing our chants, bringing an attitude around the world of all the ceremonies that we are capable to celebrate with, because that will change the world in a huge way, remembering that we are a man who is kind. So I thank all of you and everyone here for the opportunity to just, I'm sitting here in Glastonbury, and right outside of me is the hill, and the Torah is right there. Stonehenge is to the behind me. I mean, I know that I'm in the Holy of Holies in England, but even more so, I recognize that we, the people of our earth, we sit on the highest pinnacle point of the gift that was given to us by Spirit. So it's not just coming to these holy places and acknowledging them. It's what we do with our lives as individuals. True humans are considerate. We have gratitude. We have respect. And we follow the laws of nature, natural law. So mahalo for this opportunity to be in your presence and then be able to hear and feel the intentions that you all hold, because I know it's the same intentions that we hold in our hearts. Mahalo, aloha.
Mahalo, Auntie Puna. Thank you for your wisdom. Louis Cardinal.
Yes, thank you.
Introduce yourself and where you're from and whatever else you want to share.
Okay. Well, thank you, Brother Larry, and Brother Mindahi. It's always good to see you, and I'm very honored to be here with you as well. But even more so with the grandmothers, Iya and Puna, thank you so much for bringing your strength and wisdom to this conversation. I'm always humbled to learn more and humbled to sit amongst kindred spirits who are always looking to the future to make things better for our children and those many generations that are yet to come. I do believe that Indigenous people are at a time, as I've heard Puna and Iya talk about, is that this is a time where the world is truly looking to us for wisdom. And one of the teachings that I've received from elders that I've worked with is that we're not here to tell people what to do, but we're here to help them remember. And what is that remembering? That is that connection that we've had with our mother, the earth, and through her to the cosmos and the great mystery. But we as human beings had separated ourselves. A lot of people had separated themselves and severed themselves from the root of mothers. So we're helping to bring that connection back and to remind people to look back to that natural law and the ways in which your ancestors had lived close to the land and how it shaped your cultures and languages. It's still there, and Mother Earth is waiting for us to return in full. And Indigenous people, we still hold on to those natural laws and traditions that have really kept our nations grounded in so many ways. Even though we do struggle with modernity and everything that challenges us through the Western hierarchical worldview, which can be in contradiction to Indigenous worldview, but nonetheless, it's an important time, and I think that just having this opportunity to share some thoughts along with my fellow elders and wisdom keepers is a great opportunity to help things move forward. My name is Louis Cardinal. My Cree name is Sipiko Gisik, which means blue sky. When I was given that name in ceremony many years ago, they said, your job, your work in the future will be to build bridges between the two worlds that don't understand each other. And not a bridge where we meet each other in the middle and shake hands and say nice words and then go back to our side, but to cross all the way over and to learn what is good there and to share with them the good things that we know. And for them to cross over to our side, to learn from us what we have to share, and for us to continue to learn from them what we have to share. So that's the work I've basically been doing. And so Blue Sky represents that for me and the work I continue to do locally and globally as well. But I come from the Sucker Creek Cree First Nation, which is a woodland Cree in northern Alberta, Canada, Western Canada, and we're in Treaty Number 8. And so I descend from a long line of treaty makers throughout my family's history, going all the way back to 1664 or even before, but certainly bringing in those values of relationship, which is critical to any Indigenous worldview, is how we live in relationship with each other. So that's why our treaty processes were really important here in North America in particular, between our Indigenous nations and the newcomers, the settlers that eventually made it here. But with that, you know, the relationship had turned into another direction, and then the dark age of colonialism had come in to bring trauma and pain and a dislocation of us as Indigenous people. So a lot of work to do, but we still carry these gifts and the wisdom and the knowledge still close to our hearts for those of us who've been brought up in ceremony. So with that said, I just want to say thank you again for allowing me to share this circle with everyone. Hi. I'll turn it over to Iya.
Good afternoon from St. Croix, Virgin Islands. I am Iya Tahirah in this life. I was born Riverlee by giving a name to my father. And when this question of the human comes to me, and we look at our Indigenous relationships, I'm amidst and sad and grieved because my enslaved Africans was cut off from that whole aspect of what it was to be walking that path of Indigenous remembrance. But by some mystical way, there was way that they maintained certain elements even though they may appear in secret and was misnamed and misdirected as voodoo, black magic. And some of our peoples today even are caught there. So there's much to deal with in terms of this human dynamic and this human being on the earth. Like we can look at those contrasts between those who maintain their indigenous connection and those who have been severed by colonialism and what it did to them. And one of the things I asked one of my elders when I began to remember, I think it was there with me from the very beginning. And I remember my father naming me Rebellie. And what did it mean? She who leads us back to source. At that time, I didn't know that. But my body knew, my being, my spirit knew, because it was always restless and it was a seeker. Someone recently asked me, being born in the world, in the Western world, and being born in the generation of enslaved Africans, what does that signify for you? And how does it resonate in your being to not even have the language or the intonation of those ancestors to resonate to? And one of my elders said, in that part, that was our agreement to initiate in this other side of the polarity of creation, in the polarity of human evolution. So I had to put that on and contemplate what that meant. And the way it came home to me was through being called to initiation. I was called to initiate into the West African cosmology. It was like a restless. In 1994, I came home to that part of myself. It didn't stop there. It kept wrestling, that call took me even deeper into studying the West African cosmology, to studying shamanism. And there, I think I began to understand the deep woundedness and the purpose. How do I learn the ways of that other? As opposed to hating or disliking or naming it, how do I learn the lessons from the other? And what did it teach me in terms of my own personal humanity? And that didn't come to me until later on when I got called into an all-white community to do work. And again, I asked my ancestor, asked my elder and the ancestor, why you would put me in an all-white community? Why would you put me there? To bridge the way, my darling, because until we can come together and look at what we have done and how it has affected our humanity, we cannot mend that way again. Well, you got to be crazy, I say. Me gonna be with all white people? You're crazy. And then my elder said, who are you to tell your ancestors where to direct you? So my path has been for the last almost 30 years, weaving those pieces into place and then acknowledging my own indigeneity, that I carry three lenses of, I carry a Caucasian, I carry Native American, and I carry African. I named them because one, it is a way of understanding that integrated process that there's always this deeper lesson. If we stay with the suffering, we never learn the deeper lesson and the deeper wisdom of what it brings to us. So when I can embody that in a way and ask the question, what are the lessons and what will I dream and deem into a new human being on this earth. Because I really feel that it's a calling, it's the calling, the new human expression on this earth. How do we step into that new expression of acceptance of ourselves, acceptance of the other, and also dissolution of those things that keep us stuck in that separation? How do we, those elders today, begin to reconcile that in a way that we are not just intellectually talk about leaving the earth? How do we live and exhibit that on our earth today? Those are the questions that come to me. How do we ourselves, how do we acknowledge those things that perhaps part of me have been a part of that whole existence? In what way have I been a part of that whole existence? How did I benefit from that whole existence and ravish in it at one time in my life? And where am I now in that relationship? Do I embody and thank my enemy for the lessons that I learned? Do I embody and thank the abuser for the lessons that I learned? Because had I not had that initiatory journey into the darkness, would I be able to come back and bring the light that is being called for on this planet today? Would I be able to do that? If I can embody those pieces in terms of their lessons. Because some of us stay stuck in the trauma, and we discuss the trauma over and over again, and we complain about what's bad and what's good. But how can we reverse that and ask that other question? What is the lesson learned? And how do I turn to it and say, thank you, even though you was painful? Thank you. I have the lesson now. Because when I can derive the wisdom from my journey, I am able to discern and take action. Sometimes I think people think wisdom comes just because it's a word. Like I hear people say, oh, I got the wisdom of my ancestors. In what way did I learn the wisdom of my ancestors? In what way do they speak that wisdom to me today? So those are the questions that I come, and that's what I bring to this conversation, is the way of dissolution and the way of transformation, and to help remind us that we all sit in different contexts right here, and we even bring different lenses. Someone asked me the other day, okay, Iya, you come from the Western background. Everybody else has spoken from their own particular country through their language. And they had language in there where was like Elder Puna. She has the words, the language. I have to create that language that allows me to express that holistic approach to creation. And weave through those distortions that often the language brings that I use today in the Western world. So it's also about that collective agreement for us to find that medium that we can agree on. And I think that one comes to what we call ceremonial and rituals and prayer. In that silent communication, in that communication of the heart. To me, that's the human that's being called today. Is the human that lives from the essence of the heart, to love, to compassion, to forgiveness, reconciliation, embodiment, and an earth that feeds us all, no matter where we are. Thank you for allowing me to have this time with you today and share my words. And so it be. Thank you.
Oh, Kamadi, grandmother Leah, it's so beautiful what you have shared. Being human in this world is a big responsibility. The problem now is that Western societies, the positivist thinking, even science, or the so-called major religions, even those holy books initiate that we are the most intelligent beings in this world. Some of them even say that we are the peak of the creation. But I remember when I was growing up, I saw how the rivers were dying. I saw how the fish were dying, how the life was fading. And then suddenly I saw how governments, powerful people came together in the so-called Earth Summit. They were worried already what something was happening. The air was not clean anymore. The waters were being polluted. The soils were being eroded. And many peoples were in danger as well, not just species, not just animals and plants, but peoples. So we are here now. We have less than half of the languages spoken from 7,500 years ago. Every day we lose species. Every day we lose ways of communication. As you have mentioned, some people don't even have the capacity now to name the entities, the deities, the spirits in a proper way. We have even lost the sacred knowledge, and so many times also the secret knowledge, but still there is something that we still hold as original nations and peoples. And that's the sacred relationship with nature and the cosmos. But we are also losing it. You see the young people, how we are thinking about, how we are acting about the generations. And let me tell you that we need to honor the past, but we also need to honor the future. We cannot live in the past, and we cannot live in the future, just in between. And that's the mystery of life. Really, to become a human is to have big responsibilities in this world. We believe in the ultimate Toltec tradition that we humans, all of us, we were put in special places, we were given those special territories to take care of, to give care, not to take over. That makes a lot of difference. And we know that this earth, this is our mother. But this Mother Earth is not alone. We are the children, all of the species around. But she got bigger family. Let's not forget about that. But really, going back to the fact that we are just humans, is that we need to recover the collective dignity, just as another species in this world. We need to be humble. Once again, to live in the cycles of time and space, in the cycles of life, in the rhythm of life, not to live faster, not to live slower, but just to the rhythm of life, to the rhythms of the seasons. So to become a humanist, really to understand that we are just another species in the concept of life. We are not more, we are not less, we are just another species. But we are, as a species, we got a big responsibility because we believe that we came here to this planet for a purpose. And the collective purpose is the care of life, is to give care of life. And for that, we need that love and that reciprocity with what gives us life. How do you treat your father? How do you treat your mother? How do you treat your family? How do you treat the mountains, the rivers? Because we are the wind, we are the rivers, we are the mountains, we are the seas, we are the creeks, we are the animals, we are the plants, we are the sky, and we are the reflection of Mother Earth. And one of the purposes to be here is also not just to live in peace, but to live in action. To live in sacred responsibility for what we received, this nurture of life. So to become a true human is really to become in full responsibility, because we are here for that purpose. And if people have forgotten, as you have said clearly, all of you, is to remember. And remember is to come back to the origins. Re-earth ourselves, re-sky ourselves, remember. And then we can walk in dignity. Because the traditional knowledge and the so-called ancestral wisdom is becoming now contemporary wisdom. There is no other way. If we want to survive, there is no other way than to use that ancestral wisdom for the current way of living. So we can see the future. We can foresee what kind of children we are delivering to this world. What kind of generations we are delivering. What kind of people. So to become a true human is just to do the work that we need to carry out in such a way that we become responsible for our acts from the me to the we, from the individual, to go from the me to the we, because this is a collective action. And you know, even the sacred covenant with the sky and the earth is the rainbow. The rainbow got all the colors. We just see some colors, but it got all the colors, if we could see. But if there is a color lacking, there is no rainbow. So we need each other. We need each other. This is the time to come together. That's why we are calling this time the time of unification. This is the unification process. It's not easy, because you need to let go of so many things. But this is the time, And the time is now. Because we are in a process. This is not just about humans. This is about this being that is nurturing us. It's called Mother Earth and Father Sky. This is about this being that is also transcending to another level of consciousness. Because we, as humans, we are not the only ones who got intelligence. There is intelligence everywhere. We need to remember. To become really a true human is to become to the concept of life in such a way that we can put together our actions for the care of life. Poke Kamadi. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindahi, for your words. To remember who we are is beyond the words themselves. You know, Auntie Puna talked about ceremony. When we do ceremony, I've been to many, many ceremonies in my lifetime, and each one of them, there was something that miraculous that would happen. You cannot explain it, it's just there, it just happens, because it's a vibration that carries from us to the unseen world and the seen world. And this vibration, I mean, you can talk about quantum physics, for example, just beginning to understand what we're talking about as Indigenous people. You know, the people in Colombia, they've created a national organization of spiritual elders, and they had 105 tribes and 400 members of their assembly, and they have unanimously agreed that Mother Earth, she needs us now, and these elders are calling upon all the indigenous people of the world to synchronize their ceremony in a way that will surround Mother Earth, to replace or not to replace, but to give an alternative to the existing vibrational field that we are in now, which is the mind and imbalance and destroying everything, to one of love. And they are doing ceremony every day for this to become a reality. And you know, I am not kidding you when I say I've seen many, many miraculous things when the ceremonies are done, and they're not explainable, but we know they're there. And so when Mindahi says we need each other, you know, the Hopi Maori said, you know, let go of the sides of the riverbank, move towards the center, find those who have done the same, and celebrate. That means letting go of the sides of the riverbank means letting go of all human attachments. Going to the center means going to your proverbial heart center and the center of the river of life, because it knows where it's going. We don't. And find those who have done the same and celebrate means find those who have had the courage, like you had, to jump. Those, according to the elders that I work with, is going to be the new definition of tribe. And so thank you, honored elders, for presenting and giving us your wisdom that is not ours, and belongs to everybody, and it comes from places that we know are in touch with the divine, because it comes from the heart. And you know, the elders know that traditionally speaking, the heart used to tell the mind what to do, and now the mind is telling the heart what to do. Before, traditionally, when the heart tells the mind what to do, the mind's job is to implement that which your heart is telling you. And it is the only place from my experience, that it's in connection with the divine, with a role we call, or you would call God or something like that. But a role in our language means the maker. And so I hope that people who are listening got a lot out of what these elders are saying. And Ba, we are open to questions.
Thank you. I'm catching my breath because I'm so moved by what you all have offered. And I must say it resonates deeply in all that my life has been, and I just hope the vibrations, the words, the wisdom carries on. How can it help but carry on? Because these are the genuine words to myself, to my understanding. I want to remind everyone, because I didn't do such a good job in the beginning, that you have to use the taskbar on the bottom of your Zoom screen in order to offer some questions and answer some questions for us to be answered. But in the meanwhile, we did send out a chat that did tell you all what to do, and I do have a couple of questions. One, I hope I pronounced that right. There was one person who wanted to understand. She believes she heard hui, how, cacao, cuckoo. I feel like an idiot. Puna, do you have any idea what I'm talking about? You're muted, Puna. You're muted.
Sorry. I think Julio was what I said. Julio.
Thank you.
So Julio is exactly what it says. So Hawaiian language is conceptual, but huli is to turn over, and au is time. So we're in this time of Julio, and it is across the world as we understand right now. The change of leadership is across our earth. And Julio is taking the time and returning things back to the way it was. So it's us understanding the relationship that we have with Mother Earth. Each of us in our own areas have seen the gradual disappearance of health, not just with people, but with our environment. The Julio, it is a reminder to us that we must put things back. And the word that is used is ho'o ma'e ma'e. Ho'o ma'e ma'e is reminding us that we must put back what we took. So if we are looking at the Julio of man in our lives, the importance is that whatever disagreement that is happening within your ohana, within your family, that it be addressed. Whatever and disconnection that you have first with yourself in order to be able to hear and experience and care for others, we have to take care of ourselves first. That's being responsible. When we are responsible, mankind, responsible to ourselves first, our ability to listen and hear and offer help to others, it comes from a place of abundance. But that abundance has to be with us. When we care for our families, our ability to take care of the extended families that surround us is better, because we're always coming from a place of understanding and a place that we can stand on truth. Ho'oma'e is to put things back. If we look at the unhealthy reality of our communities, how do we put it back? It's about relationship, touching one another, literally one-to-one. Creating the government of time is the government of people. We help to govern ourselves, care for ourselves. We cannot depend on all of the leaders that are in place right now. We can't depend on them being the magic that's going to fix all of our problems. The situation that we address daily begins with us as individuals, our families, and then our communities. Ho'oma'e is saying, let us put back the relationships that we have, like the relationship with the ocean, relationship with our earth, relationship. It's all about how we become relative to each other or familiar to each other. So saying these words and putting, like Mindahi spoke of, it is not just words that we're saying. It is beliefs and truths that we put into motion. But those motions have to happen at home first before we can go out and conquer the world and help the world. It has to be right in and around us first, and it begins with you. So that idea of ho'oma'e, putting things back, when we were children, each one of us, I'm looking at all of us now. Some of us are a little bit older than some of you young ones like Mindahi. But when we look to our youth, our lives were simple. All of us, we never understood being poor or being without, because whatever we needed, we could go gather, we could grow, everything that we needed surrounded us. And we had the elders to help us, to guide us with the memories. So what we're calling upon now, when I say ho'oma'e, putting things back, we're calling on everybody's memory to return to that place of simplicity. Acquisition was not part of who we were as a people. All people, doesn't matter what religion, what country you were. Acquisition, to acquire and acquire and acquire and acquire things without responsibility for all that we required. I can speak from my household and my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren that I have now. I speak from my own household. Acquisition has been the guiding force in the Western culture to acquire and continue to acquire wealth. I don't think there would have been a problem if the lessons that went with the responsibilities and all that you acquired was known and spoken about and emphasized. We are in the time now of this Juliao, where we must help the future generations that are in our hands right now. We must remind them of the simplicity of life, because if we do not help to turn this around or turn it back and help them to understand the value of breath that they have, because the trees breathe for us, and the waters, the condensation that happens naturally, if we are not in support and they understand that they need this, that air conditioning isn't the way of the future, it really is working against us, to step out, to step back into the nature that we were given is really where we need our people to go back to the simplicity. All of us, We didn't know and didn't understand acquisition, so we never, ever felt that we were poor. Poor became a state of mind to be without, where we had everything. Helping our children's children understand. It is great to understand and appreciate AI. It's great, but it is not the answer to relationship. What I like about the computer and I like about is our ability to technologically use it to be able to speak and see and feel the essence of everyone around the world. What I disagree with is for our children, because many of them have not been able to be in both ways of life like all of us, that they don't understand the importance to not have all of these accessories that is artificial love. That is the problem. Artificial. There is no emotion that is passed in the knowledge that they learn. There is no relationship that is emphasized in the technology that is given to our world today. And so the idea of acquisition, having more with no responsibility has caused us to come to this place of chaotic non-emotion, non-relationship. We have the ability now to take that all back. You know, when I say take it all back, we can still touch them. When Ilarion speaks about this is a time of the heart, this is really what we're saying. We're saying that we must be emotionally have the compassion and understand from our intuition and re-establish to our children how important it is that they use the intuition or the unihipili to help them and guide them in the decisions that they make. So when we take the time, and it takes time, you know, I don't know about all of you, but I know I have 29 grandchildren that I know of. I know I have a couple extra. I'm finding them. I know that right now I have 22 great-grandchildren. They are the reason, I'm going to say, the reason that I am who I am and why I'm so invested in helping us to do this globally, to sing and do the melees and the things that connect us to the ocean, connect us to the skies, connect us to the land. Why it is so important for it to be done and for them to understand diversity. The world has all of these offerings. It's not our little bit. We are not trying to acquire wealth. We are learning and relearning and remembering that we have a connection to one another. It is a kaula that connects all of the world. And the more we pull on that life strings, the better the world can be. With all the confusion and chaotic and warlike happenings around the world, we still have the power to connect to ourselves, our families, and our communities. We have that power. It is just a matter of giving of time and helping people to understand you don't need to amass wealth to be happy, to amass love, to have that understanding and appreciate diversity is what we need to have permeated in our world today, and why the idea of bringing people like us together to share that stories of our own history, that these really are things that happened. It's not suffering read in a book. You know, we were raised with a simplistic attitude of whatever we needed was right around us. And so our hands were always lifted in thanksgiving, and not like this, not in hope, but in truth. So, to whoever asked the question, I'm saying those are the words, ho'oma'e ma'e. We all have the opportunity to open our life and to put back things that were given to us from the past to ensure our present, to ensure who are in our lives that matter, that love us with no conditions, that we continue to reciprocate that love. That's what Mindahi was speaking about, to give back. It doesn't cost us any kind of other value than time. When we can connect and have our families and people that surround us connect to the reality of us being dependent on one another. Why do these things? It is because collectively our world needs to be at each other's shoulders. Our world needs to connect to a place where we are all at the same understanding of an altar, that we gift one another with this reality of being one. And whatever we need to share, we share it openly. Both the things that we have to give, but also in the help that we can give one another. So thank you for the question. I hope I answered it with the clarification of why. We cannot exist in our world today without understanding the dependency we have on one another. And that is what Mother Earth shows us. In this oceania, this world covered by water and land, the world is covered by water. We are the land masses that are there, situated throughout our oceans. But moment to moment has value. And we really only have the moment of now. So I'm sorry for continuously talking, but I'm so excited about the idea of our children being able to walk away from the AI, walk away from it, let it go swim, go into the ocean, connect to all of our family of the ocean. We as children, when we were born into the ocean and met our family of the ocean before we met our fathers. Back then that was a natural thing. And when you think about all the people in the different parts of the world where they had the birthing and the sharing, it really was to Mother Earth and Mother Earth's gifts first. And then the breath of the grandparent or the parent would bless the child from the feet all the way to the crown, touching every single part of the body until it came to the mouth of knowledge and the soft spot there, and then breathe into the child and then pass the child to the earth mother and earth father. It was an understanding, and all cultures have these different ways of introducing the world to their children, to their offsprings. What happens in that touch is a communication of the history of the past that is passed through the hands to the body. That touch, people say, oh, we have a healing touch, we have a healer. The healer does all of the communication through the hands. So when we take the time to understand our children, our people need to be held and fondled and loved, that touch communicates so much more. And it adds to them understanding their na'au, their piko and their connection to all that came before them. There is no words to describe the holding and the nurturing of someone that surrounds you in a lay of love. And that is what we are. We're people who love one another, that love the extension of who we are, which is our families, and then the extension to all of the world. So I'm so thankful for having the opportunity to be in this space, to be in this time, to remind me, of the importance of us touching one another by breath and the energy that we share in the time that we're together. So mahalo for the question. Mahalo and aloha.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Hello.
I just
We
want to
have,
say
I'm
that-
sorry, just so we know, there's lots of questions coming in, but
okay, I
excuse me.
just want to say one thing, and that is that the elders that I work with all over the world agree with what Puna is saying about relationship. Nothing is created outside until it's created inside first. So we trash the environment outside because we trash the environment inside. We are angry outside because we're angry inside, et cetera, et cetera. And so what we say is that the most unselfish thing that you can do is heal yourself. You want love in the world, you have to become love. You not think about love, not do love, become love. And peace is the same way. You must become peace. Thank you.
Wow, I'm breathless. Here's a question. I have a feeling this may be directed at you, Louis. It says, does language or some other cultural way of knowing help us understand that all life emanates from a, quote, perfect seed, that all life has the potential, if nurtured possibly, can, in the case of humans, become a real human being? My understanding is of a cosmological force that creates the perfect seed, comes from the study of ancient Hebrew, which is similar to the Cree language.
Yeah. Well, it's
Do you
amazing
want-
that she knows that, because we've heard of that before. Certainly, there's a lot of parallels there within the ancient Hebrew tradition. But when you look at that ancient Hebrew tradition, you see the foundation of indigenous or indigeneity, if you want to call it that. It is certainly a foundation of all human beings. At one time or another, all our ancestors were connected to Mother Earth in a very deep way. That's what I'm saying. A lot of us have moved away from that root, that connection to Mother Earth. So as for the perfect seed, I think Mother Nature is that perfect seed, is that garden, is things that we have come from. And natural law shows us that through everything they do. And for nations of people or indigenous nations of people, as Mindahi was pointing out before, our different nations were put on different parts of Mother Earth. And we've been shaped by her through the land and the environment in which we grew up. But what ties us together is that connection to natural law, being shaped by it. That's why our languages are different from different parts of the world, is because the land in which we had that close commune, that deep relationship to, is what shaped us in our cultures and our traditions, because we do have responsibilities where we come from. We have ancient ceremonies and things that still are being done in order to help keep balance within our communities or our regions where we come from. And that is a challenge, and it's becoming even more challenging now as corporate expansion and resource extraction tears down trees and poisons rivers and that sort of thing. But that's where we come back in as human beings, connecting ourselves back to that root, back to that way of living in balance, in harmony. So in the Cree language, for example, the word Cree isn't even a name for ourselves. It is what was projected on us here in Canada. Cree comes from the French word Christeno, which means the anointed ones or the Christian ones. But that was labeled on us by the settlers and the traders that came in, many hundred years ago. But what we called ourselves is Nehiyaw. So I am Nehiyaw. Nehiyawiak is the nation, but that word derives from the word for, and Cree is Newu. So the philosophy behind our name is that in order to become a human being, you need to balance those four parts of yourself. So Newu is four. So it means the mind, the body, the emotions, and the spirit. They are all a part of that circle. And so in order to maintain balance in who you are, in order to become actually a human being, as the elders have taught me, is those four elements need to be in balance. If you spend too much time in your head, you become out of balance. If you spend too much time just focused on your physicalness, then you're out of balance. Or just focusing on two. What we need to do is maintain that balance in those four parts so that we then become human beings. And what's interesting is that most original names for people refer to them as being human beings or the human beings or the original people. But what does that say? That says that relationship to Mother Earth is very deep, and that we are her human beings or being human. And so language has a certain amount of place, because when you unpack ancient indigenous languages, doesn't even have to be ancient, there's a vast repository with each of these words. And so when you unpack them carefully, you have teachings, knowledge, and wisdom within the meaning of these words. And those words are shaped by the relationship that nation has had with its environment, with Mother Earth in their location. So it becomes a repository. That's why it's important to protect indigenous languages, because within indigenous languages, there is a lot of knowledge there. And so the preservation of indigenous languages becomes critical, because if we lose one language, we lose a repository of knowledge and wisdom that could help us in these difficult times. So language is very important in the role in becoming a human being, because it helps you to speak from your mother's embrace by the language and culture that she has shown you.
Wow, thank you. There's just a note of appreciation. I'm going to try to say the name Katinka von Hart, who just says, thank you for all your sharing, for taking your place as elders, and for being here and showing up. I resonated a lot, enjoying you give language to what's alive within me. Just feeling that it is nourishing to my soul. Thank you very much. Then there is a question from Yvette Dubel. I'm trying to pronounce the names. I hope I'm doing okay. It says, hello and thank you for everything you've shared. Can you speak more about how we can bring love into our work? I'm asking as an artist researcher who is doing empowerment and resilience work to help heal and then confront and hold corrupt institutions accountable by using art. What advice do you give to help elevate the vibration when gathering to do this? That would be for anyone, I guess.
Well, as I said before, to have love in the world, you've got to become love. And becoming love means you have to be the real human being. As Lewis said, these four areas that we need to focus on, when they're offside, then we are a crooked human being. And we must align them so that they are harmonized to make you a real human being. And, it's not easy, because we have to go through all of our traumas in our lives and process them and then let them go. If we don't let them go, we're going to hold on to things and we're not going to be the real human being. And that takes a lot of courage to do.
Thank you.
I would
Mindahi,
respond in this
oh,
way. Sorry for speaking up, but this question is coming from someone who really, what I feel that I heard is wanting to impart to the people that he uses his ability as an artist to bring forth through the experience that he is teaching, the idea of understanding or helping them to know who they are. So, if you look at what it is that you're proposing, the end result of what you want has to be the focus. Them arriving there you will be shown what it is that you need, but your focus, your end product, I'm sorry for using that kind of word, but the end intention that you hold has to be, but what you're actually asking to have happen. And thank you for asking the question. I think there was a lot of thought in you making that request. But in listening to what you have to say or what you're requesting, I feel the intention that you hold, and this is not something that is negative, this is positive. The intention that you hold, you are so full of compassion that it's like you have a buffet of what you want to offer to the people who you're gifted to spend time with. And working with a group of people, everybody's needs are different. So you're not going to get a response from us that can identify one thing, two things, three things that are going to be helpful for you unless you yourself understand exactly what the need is for each one of them. So maybe I'm reading too much into your question, but I feel that your passion and compassion for those that you have been blessed to be in their lives really is something that you must value in yourself first, because they would not have come to you without the gifts that you are blessed with. So thank you for asking the question. I'm really wanting you to know that you're being heard. And maybe there would be opportunity for another time where some of what you're asking could be addressed by any one of us that's here at this moment. Thank you.
thank you, mahalo. Mindahi, did you look like you were ready to speak to this a little bit? Is that correct?
Yes, I just want to share a little bit about what Grandma Puna was also referring to. Yes, love is not just a noun, it's a principle. It's an attitude. When we fell in love, or when we live in love, most of the time you are able to give because you are happy. If you are not in that situation, then it's just the suffering, the other side of the love that once as humans also feel. But that's also in relationship with why you are here in this world. In other words, there is also that bitte. the kind of the energy. Why we are here in this world? Because we come from the lineages, and some lineages have misbehaved. So that's the karma that we have to pay back as well. Let's not forget about that. And because we live in several settings, and we have so many opportunities, as we have so many layers of identity, but at the heart of the identities also flourish why we are here in this world. So love, in this case, has to go beyond human thinking, beyond anthropocentric thinking, because the rationality is not enough to think about love. It's just how you enter into these fields of feelings and how you give more than you receive. Of course, there is reciprocity in there as well, because you need that energy, but it's more in this way. It's giving back because you have taken so much. So, the artist's point of view or the scientist's point of view or anyone, we all have duties. Because being an artist, all of us, we have, not just the artists, all of us as humans, we have the so-called talents. And sometimes I have seen people, they have so many talents because it's easy for them. They don't use them. They don't take those responsibilities. But really, talents are responsibilities. If the artist or the scientist or the thinker is not using those responsibilities, then why is there reason to be in this world? So that's the love we need to deliver. So love in this case represents another chance for transcendence. Thank you.
Thank you. Melly North asks, what would our world look and feel like when we return to embodying our sacred responsibility of being good relatives? What would it feel like within us? And how would our lives change? Iya, you look like you're getting ready to talk. Do I see that correctly? You're muted still. You're still muted. Thank you. There you go.
Am I
That's it.
unmuted?
You are. Please go.
State the question again. I don't want you to do the whole thing.
Sure. What would it feel like within when we return to embodying our sacred responsibility of being good relatives? How would it feel within us, and how would our life change? Thank you from deeply in my heart.
I love that question because to be that good relative is to learn from within. And I think that question comes to me, I would ask myself, how am I a good relative within myself? How am I a good relative within that family that I came through? How am I a good relative within the community I live in? And I would allow myself to feel into that. What does that signify, being a good relative? Because so often I've found that we have regrets and we talk about how difficult it is to have grown up in situations without asking that question, what did it feel like and what did it teach me to be in that relationship? And it takes work to find that right relationship. I don't know that there's a right answer, but for me, it's about finding that relationship with ourselves. If you can find the right relationship with yourself, what is the self? A young 4-year-old asked me a couple of years ago, I was just mumbling to myself and I said, oh my God, why do I always keep doing this to myself? And I paused and I'm like, wow, I didn't think about it. And he was working with an art piece that I given him to work while I prepared the lunch. And so what came to me is that this self, this thing that we call the self, is a blank slate. So if I know this blank slate, then if everything on this slate is something somebody has taught me, I have learned from that within the environment that I grew up in, and it no longer fits, I have the capacity, gives me an opportunity to erase and place on that blank, on that slate that I created, that blank slate, what it is I want to be and how I want to be. Sometimes I think we spend a lot of time disliking the way we've grown up and disliking the things that happen in our lives without asking that question about what is that self? Because that self knows nothing until we put something on it. And we always have that opportunity to shift and change it and to walk in another dimension. I don't know that we can answer how we can be there until we ourselves evolve to that and take responsibility for becoming that which we want to see manifest in our lives personally and what we want to see manifest in our lives collectively. And the other thing I think that we miss is that why am I here? I am here as this evolving species. I'm not fixed. And if I'm fixed and I'm attached to life in a way where it doesn't allow me to free myself, I don't quite understand what it is to be human. Why am I human? Why did I take on this biological spacesuit to walk on this earth and to learn the ways of the earth and learn the ways of the other, even to learn the ways of the family that I'm born to? To me, it's about answering that question eternally and being able to be guided from that direction. Because we more than the sum total of that family that we were born in. To me, we are more than that sum total. I love the fact when I turn back now and look at my ancestors, I'm in gratitude. Because had this journey had not taken this journey in the way that it's taken, I may not be able to know this broader way of being in the world and this multidimensional way of living life in the world. That I'm not just Tahirah, the Black African woman. I am Tahirah, a human species having a spiritual evolution within myself. I am you. I am the trees. I am. And I can only do that when someone said that push off from the riverbanks and begin to allow myself to flow in this human experience. Who am I today? Who am I? Why did I come? Why am I here? To me, those are the things that allow me to embody that greater human being, that greater aspect of why life exists on this earth and why am I here. So someone else may have another way of answering that, but that's my offering. So thank you for hearing my words.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Here's a question from Tim Riley. He says, first, thank you. Second, a question. to any and all of you. In your private practices, how do you live in two worlds? How do you live and nurture the world of wisdom and spirit while incarnate in a world of inattention and suffering and self-inflicted, quote, separation from all life? What nurtures your wisdom and being grounded in such a way that you can go out into the world and be so accepting without separation? I might be asking you to describe your beingness versus doing in the world. That's for anyone who would like to comment on that.
Well, you know, my people had 200 years of slavery. We were first slaves of the Russian government, and then after U.S. purchased Alaska in 1867, we were slaves of the U.S. government until 1966. Most people don't know this, but you're talking to a slave, a former slave. And I can tell you that I grew up in a system of Unangan that never showed or never acted or never did anything that showed hatred or anger or anything towards the other. And these elders were amazing. They're what I use to ground me in what I do now. I wouldn't be able to do now had I not had the experience with these elders that were amazing.
Can you repeat again the question, please? You're muted.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you. The essence of the question is, how do you keep your sense of self and your wisdom and your wholeness intact when entering out into the world, when the world is rife with the illusions of separation? How do you do and still hold or participate as a whole being?
Yes, I can say that I think most of us in this circle, we have experienced that. Or we are experiencing still in living in between the worlds. It's so difficult, but we have to do it because we are resilient as, you know, as the human beings in general. Because in this case, it's not just our problem, it's a human problem. It's not just from the victim, but also the perpetrator. And the perpetrators are also victims of the system. So it's not just my problem, it's our problem. So we have to remember the origins. That's the reason the original instructions, the original principles, they are becoming now, as I said before, contemporary wisdom. It's not just the ancestral wisdom that we are keeping and taking care of. Now, how we are surviving. Because there is something happening in the world. Changing is happening. We live in a prophecy, within prophecies. And this time the prophecies is action. It's not just going to happen because it's going to happen. We need to put our intentions, our actions, our agencies in place so the prophecies take place. That's how we want to encounter the new dawn. So living in these two worlds is even, I have shared with you the responsibility. It's not your responsibility, it's sacred responsibility. Because you don't forget who you are, but you also need to deal with this world. of destruction, of erosion, and not just the biodiversity erosion or erosion of biodiversity, but cultural erosion. So it's our task to remember that we are a produce of where we live. So it's so difficult because the anthropocentric thought, this way of thinking is killing life. So we need to move from that way of thinking to a thinking that is going to allow us, that is based in the past, in the ancestral teachings, so we can move not just our peoples, but humanity. So that's the big chance that we have now. So we need to leave this world of destruction, this world of commodification, this world of greed, for a world that we can collaborate. In other words, we need to go from competition to collaboration. We don't have any other option because the teachings now are not coming from us. We are reminding people, but the teachings are coming from this being that is nurturing us, this being that we call Mother Earth, through the floods, through the fires, because the sacred elements are speaking. We see the world how it is. We know how much Mother Earth is suffering, Father Sky is suffering. And the ones who suffer the most are original nations and peoples because we are together. We feel. You can imagine how I felt when the river was being polluted, when the fish were dying. Part of me was dying. But we can rebirth again. We have a big chance. We are in a cleansing moment. And that resilience that we have in a collective way is what we offer to the whole humanity. Living in these two worlds is not easy, but we have to, because it's a process of remembering. In other words, it's going back home or coming back home. That's it. Okay, Kamadi.
Ilarion, I wanted to check in with you. It's close to the end of our scheduled time. There are more questions, and I just would like to know how you would like us to proceed now.
Well, that depends on the elders. What do you think? Should we keep answering the questions or cut out and maybe have another session some other time?
What I suggest is maybe that we take a minute for each one of us and say the final words, final message.
Okay.
Is what I suggest.
Any objection to that suggestion? Okay. Well, start with Iya.
Well, I would also like to acknowledge the people who have questions. And if there's a possibility to have a second platform, I would be open to that. Because I feel that there was many, even in this last question that was asked, there's so much dynamic parts to that question, so much there, that each one of us could have given some feedback in different ways that we see that, and we are able to bridge our ways and beyond our own personal experiences. Because people often ask me, how is it that you can love white people? I mean, just that. How is it that you can be in that relationship? And so there are many, many pieces of places in these discussions that we are so tied to this physicality, to not knowing that life is a purpose. And when we can remember, it's about remembering that we are no accident. To me, I go so far as to tell my people that even enslavement is not an accident. And that's a deep statement to make. There are no accidents. But what is it that I learned from that? What is it that I am able to unveil and raise us to a different level of consciousness, a different way of seeing emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually? How can we raise that vibration in a way that we can see beyond that? All of that paved the way for us to be able to stand here at this middle passage, at this crossroad in life, and be able to raise. We are the elders of our time. We are drawn from those elders that came before us. We are the elders. We are the ancestral voice that has learned to bring forth a new way and a new vision for Earth. Because we learned from that suffering, we learned from the curse that we placed on ourselves, or that may have been placed on us. We have learned, hopefully, what that looks like and able to dismantle it and bring forth a new vision. But even we elders who sit on these platforms, sometimes we have to go back and then dive in and check in with ourselves and ask ourselves, where is our true humanity to lead in this time? How can I reconcile the atrocities, or what I could perceive as the atrocities, on the dismantling of my ancestral African ancestry? Where does that fit in? And what was my role in that? Because my ancestors tell me, do not see the world as if you had no role in it. What was your role? What violation did you yourself? Because we gave all of you the imprint, the blueprint. So in what way did you violate that blueprint? Sometimes I think we elders have to answer that question. I could be totally wrong. So this is not an overnight, this is just like a crack in the wall of what I see that we are wrestling with today on this planet, we ourselves. Are we arrived enough in wisdom context that we can discern and activate what needs to be activated on this earth without allowing our prejudice and our limited way of seeing to get in the way? Have we done that? So I don't know that this one gathering will be able to allow us to answer those bigger questions right now. But I'm willing to yield to my elders on this platform and agree to go forward with whatever we propose here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Iya. Well, you have Iya's thoughts that we can dig deeper in further sessions to answer some of the questions. So, Louis?
Yes, thank you. I think for our next session, that the next session could be led by a series of questions. Your people who have been listening to this so far, of course, they'll have a lot of questions, but give them a little bit more time to think a bit more about what's been said so far, and perhaps that can lead the way in terms of how we have the next session. Because I don't want to miss these questions, because I think they're all important. So let's keep that in mind as a way in which we can address these issues, and also give the opportunity for them to think about other questions, and then put them together perhaps as a collective question once you separate them into different areas. Anyway, that's just my recommendation, because let the people lead the way, because they know what they need to know, and we're
Right.
willing to do what we can. Yeah. But just as a closing thought, Puna was, well, and we all did in our own ways, but I think one thing that Puna was talking about that's really important is that relationship is key within Indigenous traditions around the world, and the Cree are no different as well. We have the saying here in Canada and throughout other Indigenous nations that it's all about relationships. And having conversations with Indigenous elders globally, there's a consensus that us human beings, that's the most critical thing that we're facing right now, is that we've forgotten how to have relationships, or at least it seems that we've forgotten how to have relationships. And those relationships are critical to our existence, because if we ignore or disconnect ourselves from those relationships, we contribute to damage that is being done in and around us, both socially as human beings, but also with the environment as well. So that relationship then hinges on who you are in terms of where you are at in your life and how you're connecting back to those Indigenous traditions, if you are, or at least learning from them. One of to the previous question about how do you live in both worlds? Well, I don't live in both worlds. I live in one world. I'm grounded in my Indigenous Cree worldview, and then I travel into the mainstream, and I've learned how to live there too. But then I come back quickly as I can to live within the balance of my Indigenous worldview. So, because the teaching that we have here is that you cannot go down the river of life with one foot in two different canoes, because you'll fall in. So you need to ground yourself. And even if it means that you learn from Indigenous people who are not of your nation, at least it gives you a starting point to reconnect with that ancient tradition of your own people and finding your way back home through that. Back home in my community in Northern Alberta, we brought up an Arapaho medicine man to teach us how to do sweat lodges again. And this is going back to the late 60s. And so he said, you're really borrowing our lodge, and we offer it to you. But what'll happen is that you'll start to reconnect with your own traditions once again, because there's an adage that says, we have not lost culture. Culture has lost us. And when we do the basics of ceremony, you start to make that connection back to that great mystery. And then through visions or through other means, suddenly these ceremonies start to come back. And we're hearing young people singing songs that hadn't been heard for 2 or 3 generations. And that's a really good sign. So we're able to connect back to that so we can reclaim who we are and who we were intended to be. So having these connections is really important. And also, just to wrap this up, that process is a healing process, and it really does bring great gifts with it. But just to keep in mind that healing yourself is healing Mother Earth, because once you have readjusted yourself back into that rhythm governed by natural law and relationship, then your life will change. How you live, how you interact, what you need, what you take, and what you give back is going to change. Absolutely. And if we all do that together, we can change the world.
Okay, thank you, Louis. I'm aware that we are past our time, so that's 2 for continuing on, maybe with questions, leading by question. Mindahi?
Yes, I just want to thank for these webinars, because this is a big chance also to think about our place in the world, because the universities are teaching something very different. The curriculums are just in the domination way of thinking still. And institutions, corporations are in the same path, mostly. But there's a there's something changing. University started being open. We were just in Oxford a month and a half ago. And maybe for the first time in some hundred years, there was a fire. An opening fire in a very controversial summit or conference called Nature-Based Solutions. You know, the so-called nature-based solutions. And this is under the thinking of that nature is a commodity. Because it's in the same, it's the, you know, it's just the greening, the washing greening the path. So we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work, and especially those institutions that they want to change, because there is no other option, or they collapse, and it's happening. So we have a great opportunity now. This is the time, and the time is now for us. So we can come together and support each other once again, especially in critical times in systemic crisis like we are facing now. So curricula must change, but also attitudes. In general, we need to be more humble in general. And just to go in the rhythms of the life cycles, recover the concepts of time and space cycles. Because if we continue using concepts in the way of domination, we are not going to make it. So we need to change. And change is coming whether we like it or not. So that's what it is. So thank you so much for this great opportunity. Come on in.
Okay, Mindahi, so would you be willing to show up for another session to answer questions as has been suggested?
Not just another session. It should be a continuum of sessions, and is just highly needed.
Okay.
And there's going to come the time when, you know, we have to put our lives in this completely. But the sessions are good. I'm available for that when the time permits, and the space as well. Because now we are sending greetings from Brasilia. We are here in Brasilia. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Puna, your final words, and if you could close it with a prayer or a song.
Sure. Aloha. Mahalo to all that is here with us, especially for all of the words that were said. What Madaki speaks about is the prophecies. My culture, we follow the prophecies of our ancestral historians. It's as though they've laid out a path for us to follow. And believe me, it is not an easy path when we're understanding the need of the community that we're part of. I'm always reminded, because I'm surrounded by my family. And so because of that, it helps to keep me on track. You know, that idea of living in both worlds. What Lewis said is true, what Madaki is saying, what Iya is saying, we only have one world. And our cultural history helps us to decide what path, how we follow it. The guidelines that have been entrusted to us is to hold on to those memories and pass it forward. So when I say, you know, it's important that you look to your ancestral truth, which is your consciousness, or your unihipili, your na'au. You know when you're stepping in an unknown and a place that you don't belong. Children, they're born with that innate reality. And when children are happy and you're surrounded with them singing and dancing and playing, you know, we don't shut them out. We don't make them quiet, because they are like the Geiger counters that help us to understand the environment that we are a part of. When they are happy, we know that we're motioning in the right way. So our children, our families, the people that surround us are speaking out. It's important that we take the time to listen. My words to everyone is, please take the time to listen. And when you're listening, you're not just listening with your ears, you're listening with what you feel and you see. Because oftentimes the people closest to you are the ones that are passed by, because you're so used to having them around. They don't make noise. But if you take the time to feel them and step into their alo, their breath is what I'm saying. We must listen. They're wise. These children that are being born because they have been exposed to so much, the questions that they ask, they're viable and they're real. And because most times they're most informed, more informed, like I don't know how to turn on my phone unless I ask my 7-year-old grandchild, please help Grammy get to this place. Do you know what I'm saying? They are so more informed than we are with the technology that surrounds us in today's time. We must connect them to the reality of relationship and tell them, yes, these things are really good. Thank you very much. But we, in speaking, we speak this way. Heart to heart, eyes to eyes, hands touching. We must communicate with touch and touch of breath, the feel, just the feeling. You walk into their bedrooms, and I'm just saying this is how it works for me. I walk into their bedrooms, and it is, you can feel the essence of who they are. You know when they're troubled. They don't have to say the words. The expression comes right there for you to feel and experience. I'm saying to everyone, please take the time. The questions that you are asking, they definitely will be answered. This kind of communication where we're speaking and telling our truths, it is, you know, our written language. And I want everybody to know, Hawaii has a written language. It was put to sleep by our kupuna on purpose to protect the things that we had. But we have mirrored Hebrew. What does that say? Aloha, Elohim, same words. And so you will see that the connection that we have as mankind in the time that we're living, where everybody is sharing something, it's because this connection is important. Listening with more than just our ears is what we have to do. I'm saying to everyone, those of you that are blessed to have parents still in your life, those of you that are blessed to have children, you know, in and around you, and even those that may not have a connection or have had discourse, you must connect to them. Slow mail, email, any kind of mail, make the connection, because that is how we're able to not only take care of ourselves, but all those that we are a part of. All. There is no separation when we can appreciate the loved ones that we have been gifted, literally gifted, to be a part of their lives. So please take the time, make the time to see, feel, hear those that are closest to you, because they are usually the ones that are forgotten. Mahalo for this time, and I look forward to us meeting again and anticipate the questions that will come. Thank you for this flow and this reality. Po ai ke aloha o ke akua ia kako, a po ke kukui o ke akua ia kako. Malama ka mana o ke akua ia kako, ke akua ke hia I maluna o kako. Manawahi a pau o kako, ke akua no. Ke akua I loko o hei mana po ola. Aloha.
Alako Anganese. That's it, Bao. I turn back to you.
Thank you. You return it back to a changed person just from the blessings and the listening of to all of you. And so I know I express for everybody. Thank you so much. My private questions and answers here are full of people who want more. So thank you for the good graces of suggesting that, and we will definitely set it up. It's everything that we hope for and more. So thank you so much. I want to remind everyone to please donate. We do have, there was a donate button on your invitation to come. There's a donate button on the Transformative Learning website. It's transformativedynamics.org under events. And please, if possible, do donate. And also any further questions, please write to me. We put it in the chat. That's my first name, at transformativedynamics.org. And we will certainly compile all the questions and put them in a format for everyone here to consider when we meet again. So once again, thank you to everyone, and may the blessings that you've shared with us come back to you tenfold.